Hello and welcome to Cats Week. I'm January Jones. First this week, planning in Monroe County takes center stage. Sheriff's deputies had to be called in to enforce the Monroe County Fire Code on Wednesday night, as more than 100 people tried to pack a courthouse hearing room to voice their opinions on the proposed Monroe County Comprehensive Land Use Plan. The plan has passed out of the Plan Commission and is now under review of the Monroe County Commissioners. The primary friction point centered around restricting building on slopes and how property can be subdivided. Much of the opposition is being organized by CFC Properties, a subsidiary of Cook Group. CFC President James Murphy was one of 36 people addressing the Monroe County Commissioners, asking that the plan be rolled back.
The plan has specific language in it, too specific to be in a comprehensive land use plan. As Mr. Shelton suggested or referenced the 15% slope, that absolutely should not be in a comprehensive land use plan. That should be in a zoning ordinance, which is a document that will be written based on this plan.
According to a website Cook created in a public relations campaign against the plan, a 25% slope should warrant development prohibition, not the 15% slope stated in the proposed new plan. Local land surveyor Bernie Garitas expanded on the slope issue.
Something that is really causing a lot of angst. And I think that the thing we have to remember is, be it a 15% slope, an 18% slope, a 20% slope, we build on those slopes all the time. We create those slopes all the time. Sometimes creating those slopes and building on those slopes actually prevents a footprint from expanding on a piece of property. No matter where it is, be it in the watershed, be it out of the watershed. What you have to, I think, recall is right now we have the slope restrictions in the eco zone, 12, 15, and 18%. We're expanding this over the entire county.
The environmental protections in the proposed comprehensive plan are largely centered around protecting the watershed within Monroe County's karst topography. Daniel Weddle, who is building what he described as an eco-village, said although he was now a developer, he was in support of the plan. He used the rising cost of gasoline to illustrate the need for clustered, compact development.
If you live in the county, it's real expensive for the rest of the taxpayers to keep up the infrastructure for that. It's something like $1.04 in taxes for each person who lives in the county for the dollars they pay in. It's about 40 cents for us that live in the city. There are reasons why they're trying to get the people to the middle. It makes a lot more sense. And it just keeps getting more and more crazy. I mean, gas is going $3 or4 a gallon. I mean, we can't keep putting people outside the city. It just, if this plan doesn't change it, $6 gas will.
The other issue eliciting passionate remarks from the public was the comprehensive plan's proposed changes to rules governing subdivision of property. County resident Phil Chambers said he wanted to be able to do whatever he wanted with his land.
This comprehensive plan limits us so much. Wife and I have children. We just like to maybe think of plotting it off to them someday. Well, guess what? If now that our neighbors have developed their property, the density may not work out. We may not be able to do that. We have laws, we have ordinances, we have many things already in the works in our county that we've used successfully in the past once they're supervised properly and once all the little papers and everything's filled out and people do their homework. I say stick with what we've got, make it work, at least endorse and enforce what we have in-house now.
Chambers said the plan was frightening in scope, especially for rural landowners. Monroe County surveyor and Plan Commission President Kevin Enright told the county commissioners that he had passed it with two serious reservations regarding the very hot points voiced that night, slopes and subdivision of property. But he said he had a fix. Just pull out 46 pages of the plan.
You know, parts of it are very good, and parts of it need to be reworked. We had turned this over to a committee, and the committee came back, and it was like the Plan Commission as a whole lost control at that point. So my recommendations are Chapter 5, pull it out. Chapter 6 is okay. Chapter 7, pull it out. Chapter 8, pull it out of the document. Chapter 9, pull it out of the document. Chapter 10, which is the addendum to Chapter 9, which was the subdivision of properties, which is like subdivision of properties Part 2, take it out. And then the table in the appendix of sections, it won't be necessary, take it out.
Enright said then the interested parties should come up with a new subdivision plan. The commissioners will hold another public hearing in a venue that can accommodate more citizens in early March. After that, they could vote to adopt, amend, or send it back to the Plan Commission. Well, the intersection of 17th Street and Arlington Road could be Bloomington's next new roundabout. But while the City of Bloomington's Public Works Department moves ahead with designing the roundabout, the Utilities Department must ensure essential water and sewer services are continued. Utilities engineer Jane Flegg specified the affected infrastructure within the proposed roundabout's footprint.
We have very large water mains, sanitary sewer mains, a sanitary sewer lift station, and a water booster station, all in this intersection that are potentially heavily impacted by the proposed roundabout. We believe that there's probably going to be some need for relocating the water and sewer lines and potentially the buildings as well, the sanitary lift station and the booster station.
To understand the cost and scope of the water utility relocations, Flegg recommended the board commission a report by the same consulting firm that is designing the roundabout. But some board members were concerned that the Utilities Department was picking up cost instead of it being paid for within NDOT's budget. American Structure Point engineer Cindy Fort said some of the costs could be recovered.
It's kind of weird when it's a city street, but it becomes an NDOT project. They treat it like it's their right-of-way.
This is where I'm clapping.
Yes, it's because it's weird. It really is. So the part of your facilities that are in easements are a direct reimbursement. There has to be enough money in the pot of money for the project to pay for all of that work.
Fort said that while the state would pick up those costs, the Utilities Department would have to absorb a portion of the relocation costs for any utility infrastructure relocation within the public right-of-way surrounding the road. City engineer Flegg said they could not yet estimate any project cost, except to say that they will be significant. The Utility Service Board unanimously approved the contract with American Structure Point, which is not to exceed $50,000. Last year, state funding cuts forced the Monroe County School Corporation to hold a special tax referendum to cover budget shortfalls and avoid teacher layoffs and program cancellations. State Senate Minority Leader Vi Simpson, who represents Monroe County, attended a school board work session to explain the state's school funding formula.
Interestingly, it isn't nearly as complicated as people think, and it is less complicated than it used to be. So it's by the time we leave here tonight, I promise you'll know as much or more than most of my colleagues in the legislature do.
Senator Simpson said several factors, such as poverty or special education, affect what school districts receive beyond a base of $5,000 per student. She compared MCC-SC with Muncie to show how these factors could result in significant funding differences between two otherwise comparable school systems.
Main reasons why Muncie schools get more per student. They're transitioning down, so they get a subsidy adjustment. Their Tier 2 complexity index, and the Title I we haven't even talked about yet, but they also get a lot more Title I money than we do here.
Senator Simpson also said, despite Governor Daniels' assurances that there will be no further education cuts, there are still other ways to withhold school funds.
So if something awful happens to the economy and the economy doesn't recover like we believe it will, which is a slow recovery, but a recovery nevertheless, if something should happen and the governor feels like the revenue's not coming in, then he has the ability to withhold. He doesn't make cuts to the budget. He withholds distributions.
Simpson said the state education budget will also take an $850 million hit when federal stimulus money ends. She added that the effect of the recent statewide property tax caps would also tighten funding. Board President James Muehling noted that MCCSC remains in the bottom 18% of school corporation funding in Indiana. While the proposed distribution of the estimated $7.5 million raised by the fall property tax referendum is quickly polarizing the community members who supported it. A new group called Respect the Referendum has formed to pressure MCCSC to prioritize restoration of teachers and programs. One of their representatives, Ralph Gabler, said it was not appropriate to use the referendum money to reform the school corporation's educational focus.
We also urge the board to allocate tax dollars for reforms and enhancements only after programs, personnel, and any other budget items cut in February 2010 have been fully restored for the 2011-2012 school year, and only with a new superintendent in office to guide the process of public engagement and the systematic development of any new initiatives.
The School Board Budget Committee has presented a proposal that refocuses funds on efforts to improve reading at early grade levels by hiring literacy coaches at each elementary school. Former school board member Valerie Merriam said this could be achieved more efficiently by looking closely at each individual school's needs.
But I think that the committee is trying to do too much too soon. And I think there does need to be a new superintendent before all these new reforms are put in place. I think you do need to focus on reading. Now, I have the ISTEP scores from last year. I can't understand why a full-time literacy coach needs to be at Childs, needs to be at a few other schools, when they only have 4 or 5% of the kids who are not meeting passing ISTEP. I think you can save some positions by combining those people at a number of schools.
Parent Fritz Breithaupt said MCCSC's Budget Committee's plan only funds 50% of what he says the school corporation promised to do with the referendum dollars.
It is morally wrong. There are broken promises. It's politically suicide. What will happen to our next referendum if we know that it doesn't even matter what people say before and what the money should be used for? It is also something that I thought was pragmatically impossible. How can you spend so much money without bringing back classroom teachers? I thought there was no way of doing this, but apparently there is. And also, I think it's strategically the worst moment to push for big reforms without a superintendent in place here. So I do not want to see Monroe County as a banana republic. And I very strongly urge all of you to honor the referendum here.
In addition to objections from parents and teachers, all 4 members of the original Referendum Advisory Board also submitted a letter to the school board claiming the proposal is not congruent with the referendum's original promises. Board member Sue Wanzer said she doesn't believe that any of the school board members lied about their intentions. She implored people to give specific recommendations.
Tell me where to cut. Tell me what else to cut out of this, and I will gladly consider it to put in some different positions. I would be more than happy to talk to you. People talked about this isn't a financial windfall, and the voters weren't writing us a blank check. You better believe it. We don't even have the money to put back what we cut. If indeed we do the prudent thing and put in a cash reserve fund as we are advised to do, we could totally take that out and have none of that and probably replace everything that we cut, but then we would end up right back where we did last February when we didn't have any cushion to fall back on when we needed to make cuts.
The MCCSC School Board is expected to take a final vote about the 2011-2012 budget on February 22nd. Next on Cats Week, we present Changing Bloomington, a 3-part series exploring planning and development issues in our community. In each segment, City of Bloomington Planning Director Tom Makuta and I go on location to key areas of the city that are rapidly changing. We start out at 7th and Morton Streets, the home of Bloomington City Government and a linchpin for redevelopment of Western Downtown. My name is January Jones, and I'm here reporting for Cats Week. I'm here with Tom Makuta from the Planning Department. Tom, you're the Director of Planning for the city.
Yes. Nice to be here.
Thanks for joining us today. We're going to walk around downtown and kind of look at development in this series, and we're going to start here at City Hall. Can you tell me a little bit about City Hall and the Showers building and how that kind of started the whole redevelopment of this area?
I sure can, January. Some people do not know that the Showers City Hall Hall used to be a furniture factory, and at one point it was the largest employer in Bloomington back in the roaring 20s when things were great in the furniture business. But the building in 1955 was closed by the Showers brothers and was used for 30 years essentially as dead storage by Indiana University. So it was a large vacant building downtown, one of several vacant structures downtown. And fortunately, the city and Indiana University partnered with CFC to reuse the building. The arrangement was done in 1990, and in 1995, I, along with many other city employees, found a new home. And this was a very, very important step in the evolution of downtown, because the west side of downtown really needed an anchor and really needed a catalyst project. And that's what this project has become. It's been a catalyst for a tremendous amount of change that we've seen in the last 15 years of downtown. And we'll be talking about that change as we walk around today.
So when you guys moved into City Hall in 1995, what was around here? Wasn't that also an abandoned commercial property right there on the corner?
Yes, the property that you're pointing to at 9th and Morton Street was the abandoned Semicon site. For years and years, it was operated by the Semicon company, and then it fell into complete lack of use. It was a brownfield, it was contaminated, and every morning we looked at it as City Hall employees, and that was our view to the east. So that's another example of how there's been a tremendous amount of change. So now we have active neighbors instead of looking at a brownfield site, which we did for years.
Yeah, that has to get to you as a planner, looking at the potential for what's around you in this new home, and looking at what's here now. It's really a mix of all kinds of different development that has happened. You've got student housing, like you mentioned, the municipal use here and at the jail. We'll talk about the tech park, a certified tech park that's up here.
Right.
You've got the Upland Brewing Company and that great success story of their development there on 7th Street, as well as IU owns quite a bit of property right over here as well.
Well, what's really interesting here on just this portion of downtown is how the different success stories build on each other. You had the relocation of the city in 1995, which really started it all. And having hundreds of employees every day using the downtown and using downtown businesses made it possible for some of those big investments to occur. For the Upland Brewery to make an investment in downtown. And obviously the residential is important. People talk to me about residential housing and the fact that we have such a large amount of residential housing downtown, and they talk about some of the negatives associated with that. But there are a lot of positives, and it's been great for business development. This is a much more active area than it was 15 years ago, because you have a 24-hour residential base of people to use downtown grocery stores and brew pubs, clothing shops, fitness centers. So again, the successes build on each other and create a completely different dynamic here.
Well, recently, too, the redevelopment of Fairview School right around the corner, and then, like you said, with the grocery store moving in Blooming Foods into that old historic building has created a more livable community. Having a school and a grocery store really anchors a neighborhood.
Well, I think it's really important that people take away the importance of having institutions downtown. And having a neighborhood school on the edge of downtown is something that not a lot of communities have. Schools in general have, like a lot of uses, have flown out to the suburbs and abandoned some of their urban locations, and they leave behind empty buildings, and they leave behind a change. They create a change in dynamic. Having educators, having kids downtown creates an important demographic downtown, and certainly the Blooming Foods occupying the building downtown on 6th Street has been a tremendous success story.
Well, another great success story here has been the development of the Showers Commons, and the Beeline Trail. So why don't we go over there and have a look at that, and we can talk about how that has really changed the dynamic of the use of this building as a true public space. Well, Tom, we're here on the Beeline where it meets Showers Plaza. Can you tell me about the evolution of this space as a public space?
I sure can. The farmers market used to be at 3rd Street Park and had a number of years of success, then moved to 6th and Lincoln, where it quickly outgrew the space at 6th and Lincoln. And eventually there was a decision made that the Showers Commons was not going to just be a parking area for city employees, but was going to be a public space that would house the farmers market as well as other activities such as the Taste of Bloomington. And the area was converted, the awnings were added for weather protection, and in 1998 the farmers market found a new home and the Showers parking lot became Showers Commons. And it's been a tremendous success story. The market is booming. It started with 23 vendors back in the early days in 1975, and now we have 3,500 customers coming every week to the market. So Showers City Hall is more than just a place where city employees work. It's a place where people congregate. It's a place where people can meet people, where commerce is exchanged. And what's been exciting is that the Showers Commons has expanded. The Beeline Trail has been constructed, and now the farmers market in Showers Commons includes this plaza we're standing here that houses the market and is a great place for gatherings and conversation with residents of Bloomington.
And it right now serves as almost the trailhead per se of the Beeline. And on the weekends it's absolutely filled to the max here. Mm-hmm. This kind of gathering space is really important for cities. What do you think the intention was behind it? You think it's meeting the expectations of what they set out for the Showers Commons to be?
I really think it is. We had some interesting decisions to make as a community in designing the Beeline Trail, and there were a lot of people who wanted the trail simply to be functional, to be a 12-foot wide asphalt trail running through downtown that would just be used for commuting and recreation. I think we were more forward-thinking, and we looked ahead at what the trail could be, which is not only a place where people can recreate, but a place where people can gather and talk, and commerce can be exchanged. And as a result, we put extra emphasis in the design to create some public spaces, like the one we're here, the one down by Wonder Lab is another example of a public space that's been created, not just a trail. And I think that was an important decision by the city to make the trail project not just a trail, but an economic development engine for downtown, as well as a gathering space for downtown.
Well, the Bloomington Parks Department has really taken that on, and Monroe County and Bloomington as a whole are really looking at connecting all those trails. So the Beeline is going to be a connector to an existing trail system.
The idea long-term is that the Beeline Trail is our center spine, connecting the downtown with suburban locations, and eventually connecting to what will be multiple phases of the Jackson Creek Trail, the first phase of which has started down at the roundabout off Winslow Road, and also the Clear Creek Trail, which you can currently get to if you continue with this trail further south. You can get to the Clear Creek Trail. The idea is to create a loop for commuters, for people who want to recreate, and this is where it all starts.
Well, on the back end of City Hall, you have the Indiana University Research Park, which is a part of showing the mixed use of this area, because this is a certified tech park. Can you tell me a little bit about that development? Yes,
the city received state approval back in 2005 to create a downtown certified technology park. There are several communities in Indiana that have certified technology parks, but what makes Bloomington's unique is it's right in the heart of downtown. Most communities have opted for sort of the typical suburban technology park option. But we've created 60 plus acres downtown as an area that we would like to see developed for what I would call creative class jobs, for people who are involved in life sciences, software companies, small business startups, to use this area downtown as a place that they can eventually call their home. And what's really important about that is, again, you're trying to create diversity downtown. It's not just about housing, and it's not just about accommodating students who live close to campus. It's about also trying to create a good environment for young professionals with discretionary incomes to help the downtown businesses thrive. We're currently talking with Indiana University, who owns 12 acres north of City Hall, to be able to secure that property so we can control it and then control development with the kind of technology-based businesses that the city would like to see.
Well, you mentioned that the tech park was 60 acres. What are the borders of that? Because immediately I'm like, where are the 60 acres? It doesn't seem like that much space right here.
Well, the borders are the railroad tracks to the north, and then west around Rogers Street, south in the area of 6th Street and 7th Street, and Morton Street, where we're standing. It's a large area. And some of the area is already built, and we certainly don't necessarily anticipate the buildings will be torn down and properties will necessarily all go for certified technology park. There's room for retail activities, for housing, particularly housing on upper floors of mixed-use developments. But the core of the certified technology park is the area north of Showers Center City Hall, owned by the university. It's 12 acres. So it's about, 1/5 of the acreage, and that's the area that the city would eventually like to control, purchase from the university, and then be able to have developed by private developers for certified technology park uses.
We've talked about the technology park here and the municipal use of the building with City Hall, but Morton and 9th Street is also an intersection of a lot of residential development in the past few years. Can you talk about the housing that's gone up along this area?
From 7th Street to 11th Street, you've had a number of important developments that have taken place. Down at 7th Street, you have what's called the Mercury Apartments building by the Hilton Hotel. Going further north, you have the Smallwood development. Smallwood by itself is 702 bedrooms, so it is a big change on Morton Street. Going further north, you've had a number of properties that Elliott Lewis has developed. He has one apartment complex which is just occupied this fall called Morton Mansions, and then further to the north he has what's called the Village at 10th and College, which was done a couple of years ago, and it has changed the dynamics on Morton Street, but we believe it's changed the dynamics for the better. Again, we want to try to create a residential base of people downtown and not make downtown a 6-hour downtown or 12-hour downtown, but a 24-hour downtown where people can live, shop, eventually work downtown, and provide that kind of vibrancy that we're looking for.
Well, in talking about the student housing over there, how many bedrooms then did Elliott Lewis add with his development between those? Is it just 2 or 3 buildings?
It's 2 that are already built, and then he has a third one that he's received approval for further up Morton Street that has not yet been built. But between the 2 projects that are built, that's about 150 bedrooms that Mr. Lewis has added, coupled with Smallwood at 702, and the Mercury Apartments a little bit below 70. So you can see that we've added approximately almost 1,000 bedrooms just in this area of Morton Street. Big changes.
And that's in the last, when was Smallwood built?
Smallwood was built in 2002. So in the last 8 years, just on Morton Street, you've had, again, approximately 1,000 bedrooms that we brought online. Downtown as a whole, we're at about 1,500 bedrooms that have been added, and then about another 700 bedrooms that could still be to come that have been approved, but the projects have not yet been built.
And that's in the last 8 years?
That's just in the last 8 years.
That was part 1 of Changing Bloomington, a 3-part series exploring planning and development issues in our community. Join us in 2 weeks for part 2, when Plan Commission member Scott Bergens joins Tom and me on Kirkwood Avenue. That's all for Cats Week. Thanks for joining us.
Michael Lindsay, Photography and Video, serving the Bloomington community for 33 years with studio space in the heart of downtown Bloomington. Image scanning, digital restoration, and image archiving, as well as VHS to DVD copying and editing. Michael Lindsay, Photography and Video, 337-8440. 337-8440.